Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
And it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
right.
Like, it's kind of comes with the license. If you're gonna have
just
Bruce,
expect him.
Yeah, if you're gonna have Bruce Willis
Right.
in your film, he has to kill
He has
at
to
least
kill
6 people.
But like the way that it happened, I was like, well, at no other point in this movie was anyone able to do something at the level
that he was able to.
He was able to, and there was nothing to suggest that Joesph Gordon-Levitt's ever had the capability of doing that.
He shot the road to bring up the dust, didn't he, to shoot that gap?
It was smart, but I was like, how did he kill Jeff Daniels? And Jeff Daniels is great in this movie.
Yeah, he
He
was
good at
great.
I forgot he was in it.
He was
too.
a really good bad guy. How did he kill Jeff Daniels? How did he do it? All right.
Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today I'm joined by Jonathan.
Hello.
James.
I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. I just started
fine.
off the podcast
You're here
in the
and you're
worst way possible.
You're
All right.
mocking the British.
We were told to say whoop.
Yeah,
We were told to give a whoop.
mocking
You're
the British.
already in there with the British mocking.
no.
It's gonna be a long episode.
It's gonna be a long
That's
episode.
how we start.
Oh my God.
We're joined by James as well.
Whoop. That's all I have.
And on this special occasion, Corinna.
Hi.
And we're going to be talking about Looper.
Thank you, as always, to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
At FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram.
at Flixwatcher.
So we're here today and we're joined wonderfully by the James and the Jonathon from the wonderful Black Men Can't Jump ... in Hollywood, which is pretty cool. I've been listening to you guys for quite some time and I'm very excited to be sitting with you today.
So just introduce yourself, because this is a voice that people may have heard you before, but not in this role.
No, my name's Corinna and what am I? I've got many hats. I am the founder of the Bechtel Test Fest, which is a ongoing feminist film screening series that's been going for the last 5 years.
Yep.
We put on film events in and around London that have positive role models and positive representation for women in and on screen. Do a little bit of film writing when I can. I'm also communications manager for Picture House Cinemas, and I am also communications manager for Picture House Entertainment Distribution Company.
Busy.
Busy, yes.
Very
I've had
busy.
4 hours sleep. I'm going to try and hold it together today.
Yeah, I'm
as
sure
much
you'll be
as I
fine.
can. It's fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Helen is away. She couldn't make it today, unfortunately. And these guys have travelled all the way from the US of A. So we really wanted to get in and record you guys. So Corinna's kindly stepped in. And as she's a big fan of your show, I thought she'd be a perfect co-guest this time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your podcast for those that haven't yet heard it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we are a film review podcast.
And you're Jonathan.
I am Jonathan, yes. This lovely voice that you're listening to right now is Jonathan.
It's just rude to say.
Yeah, that weird voice you just heard was James. And we are a film review podcast. We review the films of leading black actors, and we talk about them
In the context of
Oh.
race and diversity in Hollywood.
It's like
Okay.
I've heard this
Wow.
before.
I know, it's great. Live
Jonathan
action.
always gets to say that
Yes.
on our podcast. So now I got to say it on yours.
But you're not a political show.
That's right. We're not political.
it's not a political podcast
At all.
Wink.
Never. Ever.
if you couldn't hear the wink in the tone.
Yeah. Wink.
Wink.
So why did you start the show, guys?
It's so funny. So our founding story was literally just a Facebook argument that was happening between James and I, where he had posted you want to say
Yes.
it?
So Martin Lawrence should have become a bigger actor, like a more just a bigger actor after the movie Blue Streak.
Right.
Okay. So like Blue Streak marks Blue Streak.
You see how the confusion that's already dawning.
Blue Streak marks a transition in Martin Lawrence's career. After that, he starts doing like the Big Mama's House movies, which Bray has pointed out he actually did make even more money for those than anything that he had done before. So he did actually elevate his career after that in terms of his financials, but he doesn't get to play as many roles as it seemed like the track that he was on was. And that movie is sort of the last time you see him like really playing a, I don't know, like playing, he's kind of like, he has layers to him and stuff. So I just thought he should have been bigger after that. And we got into an argument about it because I guess that's an insane thing to think.
It is. Right, don't laugh when you say that. And then what happened was, through that conversation, we realized, there actually aren't that many like black actors who consistently lead films. We were like, all right, Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Martin Lawrence was one of them.
Eddie in the past.
Eddie Murphy in the past. Sidney Poitier in the way past. And then we were like, it's not that there weren't black actors in leading roles. It was just that either they were kind of segregated in this way of like they were black films or films that were targeted towards black audiences, and usually those films didn't even go out internationally.
You're talking Tyler Perry's here.
So you're talking about your Tyler Perry's, you're talking about your just and then you just have like New Line Cinema films. So a lot of these films that like I'm sure a lot of people haven't even heard of, especially here in the UK, because I'm sure they never even came out, like The Wood or Menace to Society. A lot of like
Menace came out, but
I managed to see all of those just by going to my friend's house who happened to have a DVD player.
Right. Yeah.
That was or Sky. That was the only way I managed.
Yeah, they didn't come out. They didn't hit the cinemas.
No, I don't know. I mean, I was probably too young when that golden era. I always call it the golden era of black films, when like The Best Man was coming out and Soul Food and all of that.
Right, exactly.
Great films, but
and so kind of when we were realizing that, I had always wanted to do a podcast, but I just didn't know what to do it on. And then it was like, we should do a podcast. We like movies. We're funny. We should presumably not anymore, not after that opening, but so that's why we started to do the podcast, and we brought Gerard along because he also
Gerard can't make it today.
He's not here today, so actually let's not talk about him.
So we are here to talk about Looper, which you guys chose. Can you tell us why you chose it, and also give us a 2-minute synopsis about the film?
I think I suggested a different movie to John, and then he was like, I was thinking Looper, which was the second movie I was thinking.
Okay.
I remember seeing it and enjoying it, and I'm also a big fan of time travel in movies. And so that's why I agreed to like, let's watch Looper again. Was there anything specific for you?
Honestly, the only reason I just looked at all the movies that you had suggested, and Looper was one in which I was like, I remember this movie, but I don't remember if it was. I remember liking it, but I didn't remember if it was good. But I also like it because it's like an original film.
Yeah.
Original concept, to my knowledge. I don't know. I didn't
actually it's based on
deep history on it, but like it's not based off of off a pre-existing
not comic
property.
book or
No. Did you watch it in the cinema the first time around?
I did. So the short 2-minute synopsis of this movie is it's in the future. Time travel exists, but it's heavily regulated. You have these people who work in the mafia, I guess is the easiest way to say it, or they work for crime syndicates, and the way that crime syndicates dispose of bodies in the future is to send them back to the past and have those people kill them. But those people will end up having to kill themselves eventually, which is why they're called loopers, because they close their own loop. And then so wait, should I go all the way to the end?
No, we'll talk about the film during
that's
the thing.
that's basically it.
You're making it sound very simplistic.
Okay.
It is, but
Now,
Corinna, what are your thoughts on Looper?
I mean, okay, so I remember the first time I watched it and just not understanding what the hell was going on.
Was this in the cinema, was it?
No.
Ah.
This was didn't have money for cinema back then. I was probably watched it on some kind of link somewhere. I didn't say that. So I was confused the first time around. I remember that. And then watching it again, I enjoyed having the opportunity to watch it again because I wanted to see if my cinematic tastes had stretched to be able to understand it some more. And I did understand it a little bit more, but still by the end of it, I was like, wait, there's a lot of holes, there's a lot of gaps, and there's a lot of blogs out there that
there's a lot you have to kind of just let it slide through.
Yeah.
Just let it push it through.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For me, the logic gaps aren't too glaring. And again, with any time travel movie, you have to let it go a little bit, right? Because if you really think about the logistics of time travel, none of it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just accept the what the rules that they're laying forth. They're like, these are the rules, and you're like, okay, those are the rules. As long as you don't break those rules, then I'm fine.
Do you guys have a definitive time travel movie what you used as the benchmark to understand time travel?
No, because I think that the rules are different. I think the way what Jonathan just said is sort of how I look at it. Like, if once the movie says these are the rules,
sure,
then I'm just expecting you to follow that. Like, Terminator follows different ruls than Frequency does. Like, it's just
then Back to the Future.
Then Back to the Future. Then Looper. That may not be true, but you know what I mean. Each movie has its own set of rules, and if they break them, then I'm not on board with the movie.
Sure. All right. So, I mean, what was your thoughts of it? Everyone, I watched it. This is my second time watching it. Was it your second time as well?
Second time, yeah.
You've seen it multiple times before?
So this is my second time seeing it.
Why have we all seen it twice?
And
that kind of does that say something about the film? Anyway,
it does to me.
Yeah.
I would typically, a movie like this is a time travel movie that doesn't break its rules. Is typically a movie that I would see again and again. And I remember liking Looper when I first saw it as well, but on second watch, I understood why I didn't immediately jump to seeing it again. It does sort of feel like what is on screen is what's there, and it doesn't leave much for you to be thinking about afterwards. But you could be doing the same things after, say, a Terminator, like, but so he was his own father, you know. And this movie has some of that too, but just because other movies have also done that, it becomes, I don't know. I think I just was not as and the telekinesis and stuff in this. I'm just
TK.
like, I don't care that you did that. I don't care that that's now a part of this.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Well, wasn't that Paul Dano was there as the TK, like,
yes,
Chekhov's TK, wasn't he? Basically,
I forgot he was in it.
Same,
because he's barely in it. It's a weird role because it's after There Will Be Blood. This movie came after There Will Be Blood, and you would think he would have a much bigger role, and his role is like super small. And he's incredible in his like 5 minutes that he's on screen, but he's barely used in it. It's a little strange. Wait, what do you guys think? I mean, I can say my thoughts too, but I want to hold off on a little bit.
I find I'm kind of looking at it from a different, I guess, female gaze,
Yes.
and the prosthetics thing.
Oh my god,
it's very distracting. He's he's a pretty man. I would prefer to
Joesph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, Joe Gordon-Levitt is a very pretty man, and to see him with a slightly pruned up face was quite distracting and disappointing. Not gonna lie. And yeah, I was very engaged and I was very interested, but I was very confused and there was a lot of head scratching moments for me. But that didn't take away from the enjoyment because ultimately it is a very good blockbuster popcorn night movie. You know, it universally works on like a date night or a boys' night in. There's a lot of action in it, but it also felt a bit like two movies as well, because you have this beginning where it's all dark and steely and underworld, and then there's this love interest that starts seeping in, and then another one comes in because you've got him young and old and two different relationships going on. So yeah, I found that a little bit disjointed, but it didn't take away from the enjoyment of it. But it also felt a little out of date. I feel like if this film was being made now, certain representations would be a little bit more dynamic or interesting.
Oh wow, that was a great way to say there's no black people in this movie. There are no black people in this movie,
which is why it's an interesting choice for you guys, not to stereotype
we talk
your
about black
choices.
Films all the
Day
time.
off. You have any day off.
Yeah.
Also,
that's exactly what this is.
It's a day off.
Yeah.
You come to London.
Yeah.
Just chill out, guys.
yeah.
They're like, there's no black people in London. That's right.
Yeah,
You're sitting next to two of them.
Yeah. Well, the other choices that we were going to choose also didn't have black people in it too. It was
Well, you had
Back to the Future. Or
Well, it's not just black. It's not just black people.
just any people of color at all.
The Raid was on that list, which is like all out Indonesia.
That's true. The Raid is great.
I'm not sure if it's Indonesia. I need to check that out.
The Raid is great, but the Raid it's a hard movie to review because it's just pure movies that are just like pure action. It's like I'm like, I appreciate them a lot, but then I don't know what to say about it. I just said, I'm like, it was good. Like that fight scene was good. So here's the weird thing. I completely agree with you that the prosthetic, was it prosthetics or CGI? I could never tell.
It was prosthetics.
Prosthetics.
It wasn't CGI.
It's awful. I mean, and watching it again, I forgot that it was there. And I was like, how did I forget this? Because it's the entire film and it's like the main actor and it's really distracting and it's really bad. And it was bad back then and it's even worse now.
Did you find yourself thinking, does he actually look like Bruce Willis though? Or
and
I don't know.
That's my thing.
He
He
does.
barely does. It's like whatever the gain that they thought they got from him. I was like, by the time that Bruce Willis comes on screen, you look at him and you look at Joesph Gordon-Levitt, and you're like, they don't look alike, and so it doesn't matter. Why did you do this? Like,
it's so funny.
I don't get.
I felt the complete opposite of all three of you. The movie started, and I was like, I was like, oh wow, is this CGI? I forgot about the prosthetics. He looks so much like him, But then when we see them side by side, then it becomes clear how different they look. But the first, 20 minutes or however long it is before we see him, I was thrilled by it.
Like when he makes a certain face, like this face that the audience can't see, but I'm going to. I'm like, okay, I see the Bruce Willis thing, and he definitely has Bruce Willis mannerisms.
He's got his eyes closed, hasn't he? He does that kind of
squinty eyes.
He's doing the voice a little bit.
Big forehead.
He's trying to do the
strong.
voice
Doing the
a little bit.
whisper.
Yeah.
But like when they cut from this scene where he's like kind of balding, then they cut to like Bruce Willis balding. I was like, well, that didn't work. And so what's the point? And then you lose like emotion. You lose stuff from Joesph Gordon-Levitt because he doesn't have. Yeah. My wife watched this with me on the plane. It was her first time watching it. I didn't tell her anything about it. She hated this movie. She hated it because there were barely any people of color in it. The one person of color is Bruce Willis's love interest in the future, but she literally doesn't speak. She's like absolutely silent. And then she kind of hated that like all of the motivations for the men were like women, like, well, one was that his wife dying in the future, and then also like even Emily Blunt's character like winds up falling, even though I think it makes sense that why she winds up like kind of liking or at least wanting to have sex with Joesph Gordon-Levitt. It just it felt
I wasn't overly comfortable with that, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with the narrative and where the women sit in this. And ultimately, I think there's something to be said about, I don't know, mummy issues somewhere along the line, in the way that he's got this girlfriend who ultimately is a prostitute, but he's trying to imagine her more in his life than she can actually commit to.
Right.
And the whole, stroking his head and didn't he say, oh, this is what my mum used to do or something? It kind of got weird.
He might have even said
that. And then I think it's a very masculine film as well. Even just overall, you've got this character who is talking about how toxic masculinity is one big dangerous loop, and if you don't cut it off at some point, you're just going to keep breeding these dangerous men that are just going to keep shooting each other up and like going back over old ground and trying to change things that they can't, and just taking all this baggage into the future.
It was like the actual message of the film was if men aren't like loved enough by their mom, they're gonna become violent psychopaths. And I was just like, short, it was like, and there's a way in which I was like, I feel like when Rian Johnson, right? That's the director. Did he write this?
Right, yeah. Writes the director.
He wrote it too, right? Yeah, he did Brick. I mean, I feel like when he was writing this, I bet he thought that was like feminist, like, or like female positive, but there is a way in which you can look at it that it's like, it seems like you're almost blaming women, like in a way. I mean, he was like, oh, well, this kid's mom was in his life, so he grows up to become like a reign of terror to the future and like kills all these people.
I remember
he doesn't have a mom either.
I remember Emily Blunt's character, the first time I watched it, in my memory, I was like, oh, she's played such a badass character. But I just remember those shots where she's there with the shotgun. And then when she faces up with him after when he's coming on his come down, and he knows he's not going to shoot him. And then I was like, oh, you haven't got much power at all in this. You're just someone who needs to be saved by Bruce Willis in the past, kind of thing. And I felt a bit gutted because I love Emily Blunt. I think she's a fantastic actor.
Yes.
And I just think this was one of the roles that kind of brought her out a bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember her before this really, but then
she was in Devil Wears Prada, but not anything like this, because she I think this was the first time you saw her in like an action kind of light, where you're like, oh, she could actually be an action hero.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And then I don't know how soon after Edge of Tomorrow came out, but obviously that cemented it. But yeah. I don't know. Anyway, but I guess the reason that I like this movie though is because it's very original. It takes risks. It doesn't work all the time, but like for instance, that part in the beginning where the first looper runs and they're like, we got to figure out how to bring him back. And he's like, well, just kill him or just kill Paul Dano in the present. You're like, no, it doesn't. Like, if you do that, it'll screw up the future, but we can do other things. And then they're like literally just like cutting limb from limb. And then carves the thing. And I was like, damn,
as that's happening, he's physically manifesting like with half the nose and like the fingers are going.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I struggle with. I'm like, he wouldn't have got here with those things.
Yeah, that is one of the things. That is one of the things that I think is interesting about the movie to think about. If there is a rule that you can't kill him, but you can do other things, what do those changes? Look, he could not have gotten there without those things.
What it was trying. I mean, I don't know if they fully explained this, but it seemed like what they were in terms of like how the timeline worked. It was like, whatever you do to the person in the person in the past, it will affect that person in the future, but only at the moment that they're in now, as opposed to like their entire lifetime.
That's what it's saying, but how does that work?
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
But time travel doesn't make sense. But that's the rule that they laid out, and you're just like, all right.
On Doctor Who, when they say like this moment is fixed in the timeline,
I love how you've referenced Doctor Who. You've come to the UK. Yes. Just so we don't have
He does actually love Doctor Who.
Those blue police boxes do not exist here.
I know they don't.
Hello.
Sorry. We've been through this already.
Passed a couple of red ones though, and that, you know what I mean. That's fun. But that is a thing that I think is fun to think about. It does only affect them in that moment in time. But then as we learn through Bruce Willis's memories, that there are ripples or that will then happen that somehow also affect things too, but it won't, it would then eventually happen over time, right? That is fun, but then for me the movie then stops thinking about that and then starts following other things that I thought was boring.
Okay, everything that they brought up, it was just like, oh, this is a fun thing, or like, what if TK was only, what if it was just a party trick, and then there was one person who could really use it, It was, it felt, you know what this movie is? It's like, this movie was like a, kind of like the TV show Lost, in which like, they just kept bringing new interesting
putting stuff
things,
in
like,
there.
and you're like, oh, and then by the end you're like, I mean, that didn't amount to anything, but the ride was fun.
Yeah. It could have been a great series, in fact, because it literally had lots of different sections to it. And then I remember getting more engaged when the little boy came in, because he was, at first I was like child actors are normally really annoying, but then I was like, something about this kid. He's really,
he's so good.
He's great.
He was so creepy.
He's so good because of how creepy he was. But then when he needed to be like, and like crying, like I believed that. Like he went from like, this kid is the Omen to like, oh, this poor little kid. It was. He looks like he was like 7 years old.
That's true, actually, because you're right. You first have this idea that this kid's going to be this snotty little brat, but actually then the dynamics start being applied to his character and you start having more empathy for him, and then he's starting to do these... What is the thing that he does called the big...
I don't know. In this
form of...
Are you talking about Lost or here?
No, not Lost.
Yeah.
We're talking about the kid.
So I don't know. He just kind of has a massive like TK episode, doesn't he?
Yeah. Little strop.
Yeah.
A lot of little strop.
It's a big
huge
strop.
strop.
He can literally blow people's organs out of them.
Yeah.
Do you think he knew he was doing that? Do you think he knew he was like blowing?
I think he did.
On some level.
Yeah.
Yes.
On some level, I think he did know.
But it's like when a kid is mad and like hits you. They know that they want to hit you, but I don't. If a kid like had a knife and hit, they're not necessarily thinking about the ramifications. Like I'm gonna do this and that's gonna kill you, and I'm like premeditating it. It's just more like
it's just that moment. It's like an emotional burst, and it comes out.
He wants to
focused
hurt
on
this
that guy.
person because this person is hurting his mom or him.
And a child's reactions are so raw. They're not actually thinking about, because they don't understand consequence.
Exactly.
They're just going to respond to this thing that's going on. And again, I think this is talking to this underlying narrative of where toxic masculinity comes from, and without having the stable family, and without, I mean, he didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
I don't even think he really believed his mom was his mom, and ultimately he's just playing up because of his unfortunate environment.
What do you think about the ending? Because again, the second time I watched it, I just thought, that's a bit pointless, isn't it? Just turns a gun on himself, and I thought it could have been.
I mean,
can you
pointless.
think? Yeah. I mean, it's just amounted to nothing, isn't it?
Bit of a cop out, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know how to end this anymore.
It's another one of those things that then if that is true, if he erases himself, then what was the last? What really was the last?
What's happened?
Yeah, what got us here? How did any of these steps happen? If he really does,
it only affects the person's future in the timeline that
but
they're
if
in currently.
If he shot himself, if he's made himself dead, then he can't have gone into the future to come then back.
You gotta let it go. Because if you think about it, it's not gonna happen. Time travel doesn't make any sense. Like, legitimately, any movie that has time travel in it, once something goes to the past and touches, and just them their presence there, and they take a step, it like alters every single timeline that would not even allow them to get back to the point that they were in necessarily.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So,
but if you've made yourself non-existent, then
you
the previous
yourself.
That's the thing.
the previous like hours of this film haven't existed either. Because it can't have happened.
Right.
It did happen though.
Is he not trying to change things to save his relationship in the future?
No, he's changing in the present.
He's changing the present.
Avengers is a similar thing where it's
So
like
it's a
the timelines are. But this is how
but
you
don't
have to
bring
think
up
of it.
Avengers.
No, but I
because-
know Avengers is confusing too. But here's the thing. All right, just think of it like this. If you're gonna, again, the more you focus on it, the more it doesn't make sense. But it's like timelines are like they're infinite number of possibilities, right? So it's like an infinite number of timelines, and all of those things they can be affected, but it's not really affecting the other ones because it's its own thing. So it's like in this timeline, that guy got to this point, and so anything that happens in this timeline, it doesn't change the past because it's already there. It can only affect the future. So it's like whatever happens in the past can only affect the future, but a future person coming back and doing stuff and then him killing himself, it's like, okay, that guy's erased now, but he already affected the past because it's in the past. So like so what you're saying is like, well, once he killed himself, then he wouldn't have gotten to this point. It's like, yes, that's true, but that exists in another string.
Right. And this movie
that thing exists in another string, but it doesn't exist in this string.
This movie does do a good job of setting that up, right? Because we see how it starts, which is he shoots himself. And then we see what the original loop was, right? And the point of the new loop happening.
Right.
But then it does just feel like, but then what did I just watch?
Well, you watch here's the point of the movie is you're supposed to watch a man. I think the point of the movie is like it questions who the good guys are, because when you first start the movie, just naturally with most protagonists, you're on Joesph Gordon-Levitt's side because he's the protagonist. The guy tries to run away. You're afraid for him. You're not necessarily against Bruce Willis. You're just afraid for Joesph Gordon-Levitt because you saw what happened to Paul Dano. You don't want that to happen to him. And then you see the Bruce Willis timeline, you realize, oh, these are kind of the same people. So maybe they're really on the same team and I shouldn't, and this is a good thing. That means he gets to live. Like he doesn't have to die, and then you realize, oh, he tries to save his, he's trying to save his wife, his future wife. But then you start to realize like he's actually just as evil.
Yeah, he's out here killing kids.
If not more evil.
That is dark when he's going through. That was a Terminator thing.
Yes.
Instead of Sarah Connor, he's taking out these kids with reckless. He did not give a shit.
He didn't care.
Didn't care at all. And he only cares about his wife. And so at the end, you're supposed to be like, oh, he's like kind of like what you said already. Like he's realizing there's this cycle to toxic masculinity, and it's never gonna stop. And the only way to stop is to remove himself from the equation.
And
but
hopefully
my thing about it,
become the Rainmaker.
And hopefully the Rainmaker doesn't become the Rainmaker. But he was. It's basically like there was no hope for his character. It's a little dark.
There was a little bit of hope. Why didn't he shoot his hand? He could have shot his hand off.
Nah.
And then he would have.
Because he was like, that person's never gonna stop.
And then he would have dropped it. You would have dropped the gun.
And remember, he didn't know that all the people.
It could have been the father figure for Sid. It could have been the father figure pre-Rainmakers.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
That's
at one
true.
point I was like, wait, is he going to be the dad? And it's like, no, okay, that's
No, that was.
It's
all,
actually him. I think.
And because like there was a moment where he's like, where the kid is like, she's not my real mom, and you're like, oh my god, and then she's like, no, I am his real mom. And you're like, oh, right. Like I said, it was very much like Lost. It kept being like question, answer, and then like sometimes the answer was always there, and then a question was brought up about that answer, and then you go back and it's like, no, it really was that the whole time. What's weird is the thing that I didn't like about this movie, the thing that I didn't like the most about this movie was the Bruce Willis action scene where he goes in and kills literally every single person in that looper. And I was just like, how? Like, it was like the first time in the movie where like somebody did like a supernatural, I mean, it's very common in like these action movies where like the good guy like can kill all of the bad guys.
Yeah, he's got that license, and it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
right.
Like, it's kind of comes with the license. If you're gonna have
just
Bruce,
expect him.
Yeah, if you're gonna have Bruce Willis in your film, he has to kill at least 6 people.
But like the way that it happened, I was like, well, at no other point in this movie was anyone able to do something at the level or
that he was able to.
He was able to, and there was nothing to suggest that Joesph Gordon-Levitt ever had the capability of doing that.
He shot the road to bring up the dust, didn't he, to shoot that gap?
Which is okay, but that was like a stopgap measure for one person. Like it was smart, but I was like, how did he kill freaking Jeff Daniels? And Jeff Daniels is great in this movie.
Yeah, he was great.
I forgot he was in it.
He was a really good bad guy. How did he kill Jeff Daniels? How did he do it? All right.
Let's head to the scores, guys, and we can carry on talking about the film whilst we're rating it.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
I don't know if you've heard the show before, guys, but we've got the recommendability, repeat viewing score, small screen score, and engagement all out of 5, and then that spits out an overall score at the end. Do you want an explanation of the recommendability? Let's go with James first, because you're top of the list there.
Yeah, I'd say that's about a 3 for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would be a 5, like easy recommend at any point in your...
Just a movie that I would feel like you just definitely
and you can have decimal places as well.
To see for this, I mean, like I was saying before, it's just there are just certain. It's not as exciting for me in terms of time travel movies because it just puts a lot of stuff out there, but doesn't. It doesn't. I don't feel like it quite delivers on those things. So, but I wouldn't not recommend, like, if you want to get an action squeeze in, or if you want to think about some ideas, this is a fun one.
Jonathan,
we can give decimal places.
Yeah, you can do. You can go to.
Think about that.
This is my problem.
This is your problem.
This is my problem with like, just commit, man. You got to be one on the nose.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing
don't
is,
listen to me though. That's just my own personal application process.
You can apply it any which way you want.
I'm gonna say 4.5.
Oh, that high. Ooh.
0.5.
What's
Not
what's
quite
the
a full
0.5? What would be taking it to a 5?
Taking
missing?
it down.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't like action movies or movies like sci-fi type movies, I would force you to watch another movie before I would force you to watch this.
Force.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, fine, you don't like it, but you have to watch Star Trek first. I don't know.
Corinna.
I would give it a 3. I think it sits in the canon of futuristic and time travel movies quite comfortably, especially with a cast like that and the ideas and the originality that it's throwing about. I think if you're going to talk about all of those things in cinema, this is one that you would have to credit. So yeah, a 3.
3. I'm going to go for 3.7. I like it.
You committed to the decimal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You weren't even doing a half. You were
It's
like,
great.
no, I'm going to do.
Just a nudge above 3.5, I like it. And if I had to recommend it, I'll put a few caveats in there. But it's, first of all, don't worry about the time system. It's not going to make any sense. You'll have questions. I can't answer them. Don't ask me at the end. And the thing is, it doesn't, like Mulholland Drive, at the end, you leave there thinking, I have no idea what I've watched, and I just want to keep on but I want to keep on thinking about it. This is like, I have no idea what's kind of happened, and to be honest, I don't want to. I'm just like, it made no sense. Don't want to leave it.
That's it, because a lot of it is so confusing, but Rian Johnson has created a world where you don't mind just being
and
in
this
for
is
2
this
hours.
is the thing I love, like you said at the start, Jonathan. I love the way this is an original thing, and still you don't get enough original films that get out there and make an impact. I'm not a fan of how Rian Johnson did his Star Wars film. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great. It looks probably the best.
You didn't
looking.
Rogue One.
Yeah, not Rogue One.
No,
Oh,
Last
he did.
Jedi.
Oh,
Yeah.
Last Jedi. That's right. Last Jedi is. Anyway, we got to talk.
Because I think we'll go off on a tangent. We could talk about this afterwards with some beers, maybe. But I think Last Jedi looks beautiful, but I think he wasted so many of these characters. He didn't know what to do with John Boyega. Didn't know what to do with Rose. All these kind of things, and I just kind of think there was so much lost.
Is that why we picked Looper?
Didn't know what they did with Mark Hamill.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was thinking that the whole time.
Even Mark Hamill wasn't used properly in that Last Jedi. So this is me soapboxing here.
I mean, don't talk to me about Star Wars.
Sure. Repeat viewing score, James.
Yeah, I gotta go with a 1 on this one.
We've all,
What?
I gotta go with a 1.
Oh, what? Like you wish you hadn't watched it again?
we've all seen this twice, right?
Yeah. I
think that's indicative.
And I know it's super low, but it's just because like really I didn't feel like I was in a different place watching it the second time as I did the first time. And because this is a movie that has been like on my list of like, oh, I'll go back to that. Yeah, like I should go back to that. But then not
when you did
enjoying it at all. I had to give it.
What was the point that made you think I've made a mistake?
It was when
a big mistake.
Here's the problem that I have with time travel movies is I just start spiraling, going, okay, well the ending is going to be he's his dad and he's his, like I start doing all that stuff, and then when they don't do any of that, I get very upset.
Yeah, no,
I know.
I like
So
a
you have
payoff.
expectations.
This is on me.
You need to write a time travel film
Yeah,
that
that's
resolves
just-
all your issues with all time travel
And makes
films.
perfect sense.
and that
Exactly.
other
And it
people
was
can
when-
go on podcasts and complain about.
Yeah, no, really, and it was when
That James III, right? His film. I don't understand.
I mean, it's just what's
there's-
going
doesn't
on.
make
There's no
any
paradox.
sense.
But it was when when it started to be like, oh, the bad guy he's a telekinetic, and and it's like some sort of some sort of upbringing of his. I do like the way that I do like that it would have ultimately been his fault. That I do like that. That is fun. But I don't know. I didn't need any of that.
It is
stuff.
like it's the reverse John Connor, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they're trying to make sure John Connor's alive so he can say, and then they're trying to kill him off to make sure the shit doesn't go wrong. John, repeat viewing score.
I would say 3.5.
All right. So you watch it again, but you're not sure when. You're kind of like, yeah, I'll watch it.
If it was on, I'd watch. Yeah. To be fair, I don't really watch movies again much. unless it's like top, like very top tier.
What's a top tier movie that begs the question?
Like Jurassic Park,
Hell yeah.
Original Star Wars, The Matrix,
Yeah.
Will Smith movies. Not all
So
of them.
After Earth,
Not
he
all of
watches
them.
many
Not all of
Matrix.
them. No, After Earth, I've seen once, and I wish I didn't see it the first time.
Corinna.
Do you know what? This is where the decimal points actually I would...
See?
I get it.
They have a place.
Because I am 50-50 on this. It's a good film to watch again, but it depends on what your uses and gratifications of films are. Like, if you want to go back and look over the back catalogue of Bruce Willis films, or you want to know what Joe Gordon-Levitt looks like with a funny face, then sure, you're going to have a good time.
Man, that face. It really is the worst.
That's quite a specific requirement, isn't it? For film watching. Netflix might have a category for that.
I've been there. But I think, again, if it had more of a payoff in the end, if I kind of understood more succinctly what was going on, I would enjoy watching it again and connecting the dots to where my gaps of knowledge were or my naivety was for the first time I watched it. But actually, watching it again didn't confuse me more, but I was just a bit like, I don't know how much I care that I didn't get it. So
it's fair.
So what's that in the score?
All right, 2.5.
Yeah, there you go.
Gave you a
Different
decimal
places.
point.
I'm going to go for 2. I, like yourself, James, I thought, how come I haven't watched this again?
Yeah.
And I left the cinema thinking, yeah, it was kind of cool. People saying, should I watch Lupus? Like, yeah, go and watch it. But then there is a reason inherent sometimes where you haven't seen a film again. And I just didn't sit that well with me for a few different reasons. I will watch again, maybe again, like 7 years down the line when someone says.
Yeah, I feel like in like 20 years' time or something, it will be like, oh, Emily Blunt's greatest hits, and you watch her start to break out in those kind of superwoman roles. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. The ride is more fun. It's not dense.
James, small screen score.
Small screen score? I'm going to give this a 4.2.
Did you see this in the cinema the first time?
I saw it in the cinema first.
Sure.
And I had to watch it on my phone because the Wi-Fi in my Airbnb did not work. And
Excuse me, wait, you watched this on your phone?
I watched it on my phone.
So if Helen was here, she'd
the smallest of screens.
Livid.
And
I'm livid.
The Wi-Fi on my Airbnb was not working, and I had to watch it on my phone. And like, there's something about it's just very intimate. And the scale isn't, or the scope, I guess, isn't huge. You know, it's pretty contained. And so I enjoyed watching it on my phone. Like, I wasn't like, ugh, I wish I could see,
IMAX.
Right.
Joseph's face, Joseph's prosthesis, like on 40-foot screen. John.
I'll say a 4. I mean, yeah. It's much better on the big screen, I think.
That's true of most films, but it's like some films, like I can't see myself watching Endgame on my TV at home, or I would never watch Endgame on a mobile, for example. But this
I'm sure he has.
Yes.
It's like you can watch it. The thing is, it's still enjoyable on the small screen. It's just not as enjoyable. But you can watch it on a small screen.
Corinna.
Okay, I'm going to give this a 2. It was a 1 because, I'm a big cinema purist. I love going to the cinema. I work in cinemas. It's all about the big screen experience, big, bold, loud, phones off, nobody talking to you, engaged with the whole, environment. But yeah, as I was watching it yesterday on a reasonably big TV, all I could think was, I want to watch this in the cinema so that I can be in this world and actually see what's going on, because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of detail that's going into this rich cinematography, but I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't there. It was all very...
Do you think that allowed a lot of the issues of a lot of the kind of the theories coming in? They just kind of in the cinema, it just kind of washed over you, and you let it envelop you. But at home, you can start to think about, well, hold on, that doesn't make any sense.
This is it. I wanted to think more about this film. I think there's a lot in this film that isn't yet written about in a interesting, really interesting way. I mean, I took a quick look at all the reviews, and it was all, fanboy magazines, and I wanted to actually read some theory on it, because I think there's some interesting stuff in here. But when I'm in the cinema, I'm so engaged, I'm so arrested by everything that I'm seeing and hearing and feeling, I think about it more. Sure. So I missed that intimacy with it by watching it on the sofa and with a fuzzy TV.
I'm going to go for a 4. One thing I'd like to say, there's a cinema here in the UK called Prince Charles Cinema, and they often do re-showing. That's where you're doing your next Bechdel test.
Yeah, nice segue.
Whippet, isn't it?
Whippets, yeah. It's 10th anniversary screening.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll be there. But they said they do reissues every time Matrix comes around again. They do Matrix, they'll do Terminator 2, they'll do, I don't know, Big Lebowski, whatever. And if this was on there, I wouldn't think, I'm not going to watch Looper on the big screen. I really can't be bothered, because it still is a bit of a faff, isn't it, to get down to the cinema to watch a thing. But at the moment, I'm gutted I didn't see Matrix, because I've not seen Matrix on the big screen, and they showed it then. I just couldn't make it. Right. And that one, that for me is like, my body aches to see that Matrix on the big screen.
Because I think this is why I've given it such a low score, because I watched Matrix when it came back out again because of the reissue, it was amazing. I remember watching it kind of in my pajamas or something all those years ago, and not really getting it properly, but seeing it again, putting it up on the big screen, and got it. I just understood the marvelry of it all. It was just beautiful. It's amazing.
Engagement score.
And what's this one again? Sorry.
So this is like when you're watching at home on Netflix, are you playing around on your phone? Obviously you weren't, Jonathan. James, because you were on your phone.
I was on my phone.
Are you like walking around, not paying attention, doing your laundry? Or are you locked in fully?
I have to give this a 2.5, and that's I know, and it's just because, and again,
you have to give it?
I have to, and it's just because literally halfway through the movie, the boy is a telekinetic, and I'm like, I don't care, and that is my time travel prejudice, but yeah, like I was wrapped,
yeah.
And I had forgotten that part, and then that happened, and then I was just immediately less engaged in it.
Jonathan?
So engagement score is like 5 is like I'm fully engaged.
Fully locked in, can't take your eyes off the screen.
You haven't checked your phone for at least 40 minutes.
I would say 4.7.
Whoa.
That's up there.
Because there are so many questions in this movie that I don't understand how you could not be engaged while watching it. The only part that I could see drifting out a little bit is like there's like a little bit on the little farm where it feels like the movie like purposely lulls, but it lulls in a way that you're just like, I don't know, do you want me to check out for a bit? Like, like it feels like they're like, all right, just take a couple. They just start thinking about the other stuff. Like, who cares about this little kid? It's a little slow for no reason. I think he was like, I think there is a reason for it, but it's not really communicated well. That said, there's so much happening in it that I feel like you have to be engaged. Even if you don't like it, you're still like, okay, so hold on, let me say. So this guy is, so what are loopers again? And
I think that's exactly why you need those times when it's the lulls, so that you can start just catching up with yourself.
Sure.
Like, wait, what's going on? Okay, right. Because otherwise it's a great respite.
So what's your score?
Engagement. So I am this is why I love watching films on the big screen. I'm terrible at home. Like, I'll start doing my nails, I'll order a pizza, I'll start cleaning the house. This, I managed to watch it without leaving the sofa, but I might have fallen asleep a little bit.
And you didn't stop and rewind it? You just thought, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Hey, we're friends here. Yeah, I did that. But because it's... Okay, I'll give it a 3. And that's higher than I thought I was going to give it, because actually you do need to be... The overall enjoyment does require some sense of understanding. And I don't think you can completely understand it, because a lot of it is open to interpretation. And you want to give yourself that enjoyment of applying your own logic to it, and that requires your engagement.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 4, because I think, similar to you guys, I think once you start watching it, you have to be engaged in it. If I started watching it and thought, not today, then I'd just switch it off and walk away. So I think you have to be involved in it. So I'll give it 4 overall. That gives us an overall score of 3.225. Probably a bit lower than I thought it might do, but I think fair enough. What we always do is reach out to our guys on Twitter before we record and say, in this case, we're reviewing Looper with John Braylock, James Third Comedy from Black Men Podcast. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts for an on-air shout-out on Flixwatcher and ask for a short review. James, can you read out the first review? Please?
Yes. Visually stunning and wonderful storytelling and casting, too. Just a really fun movie to watch. It's at Death by Film Pod.
And he gives it 5 stars. Jonathan, can you take the second one?
Ooh, Looper, the movie that made us believe JGL and Bruce Willis were the same person. Did it? Okay.
Did it?
That's an underappreciated achievement. 4.5 out of 5.
And that's the Contrarians.
Those are the Contrarians.
Yeah, that's the Contrarian Prime. At Contrarian Prime, give us that review. Well, thanks very much, guys. Can you sign off by telling us where we can find you online, your Twitter, Instagram, Black Men Pod, and Corinna, of course, do tell us remind everyone about Bechdel Test Fest, and tell us about the Prince Charles show. Yeah,
so we're putting on a 10th anniversary screening of Whip It.
Have you got any special guests this time?
We're working on it.
Okay.
We'll see. As the cast is pretty good. I know a certain Eve has just recently moved to the UK, so who knows, I might just pop by, see if she's around.
What?
Well, I realise I've set myself up for a high expectation there. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun, and Prince Charles is the perfect place for it. So yeah, that's going to be good. And we've also launched our first podcast, which is called Who Is She? So we delve into the life and times of a exceptional woman in film, and we've got our latest one with Joanna Hogg, with an interview with her in the release of The Souvenir. So check that out. So yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Oh, you can check us out at Black Men Podcast. BlackmenPodcast.com is our website. You can check me out at John Braylock on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, at Black Men Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm at James Third Comedy. Third is the number 3 RD.
What is it?
Okay, you don't have to do this. You're now making it complicated. It's James Third Comedy. When you get to you get to third.
THRE.
It's the number 3.
3
now you got me messing it up.
We'll link to you. We'll link to you in the show notes. It'll be fine.
Thank you.
Scroll down the show notes, click on the link, and you'll take it to... And that's your Twitter account, is it?
That's right.
Excellent.
And we're also at Bechdel Test Fest at all the usual platforms, and I'm Corinna on Twitter.
Thank you very much, guys. Amazing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.